Welcome to the latest Motley Fool Scoreboard. I'm Anand Chokkavelu, and we've got longtime fools Karl Thiel and Keith Speights giving a 1 to 10 rating to the company that, like Match Group, looks to solve unmet needs of the heart. It's Kiniksa Pharmaceuticals, ticker symbol KNSA. Talk about the strength of Kiniksa's business first, including factors like industry and competition. A 10 is invincible. A 1 is hopeless. Keith's at a 7. Karl, you're at a 6.
Yeah, I don't know. I might be being a little harsh. I don't know. So Kiniksa has one product called Arcalyst that it licensed from Regeneron, which is a much larger company. It's an old drug with a new patent. So its basic composition of matter patent on this drug expired way back in 2013. But Kiniksa very smartly got a new method of use patent in recurrent pericarditis that goes out to 2039. So they have a long, long road of exclusivity on this. I don't super love one-trick ponies, but they do sometimes work out very well, and this is one of those cases. Revenue for this one product is likely to reach about $600 million this year, and I think there's room for growth. This is one where analysts have kept ratcheting up what they think peak sales will be. Currently, I kind of see the number 700 million, but it's very unlikely to stop there. They still have relatively low penetration. People are using the drug longer than I think was originally anticipated. And so they're probably going to keep on growing well beyond that level. Pipeline wise, they really only have 2 active programs, and both are like Arcalyst focused on IL-1. So that, using IL-1 as a target kind of de-risks those programs somewhat, but it's also far from certain that they're going to actually hit on something that has a better commercial profile. And they may just, mostly end up cannibalizing themselves if they are successful with some of those. But I can't argue with success. An in-licensing model like this is tough. So I gave them 6.
Yeah, I went just a little higher than Karl with a 7. I do like that Kiniksa. The company kind of reminds me of those stories you'll hear sometimes about a person finding a valuable work of art at a garage sale, and the person at the garage sale was selling it and didn't realize what they had on their hands. And that's kind of the story with Kiniksa's lead product, Arcalyst. It was a drug Regeneron had, as Karl mentioned, and Kiniksa went garage sale hunting and picked up this drug, and today the sales are skyrocketing. But as for its business overall, I gave it a score of 7. The pluses are that Arcalyst is doing really well, as Karl mentioned. It's the only drug on the market approved for treating recurrent pericarditis. Also has significant growth potential, as Karl mentioned. The downside is that Kiniksa, at least for now, is 100% dependent on this one drug for its revenue. And I'm like Karl, I really don't like one-trick ponies. So the company needs to find something else to get approved. And it also splits its profits with Regeneron. So that kind of dings it a little bit in my book.
For management, a 10 is Warren Buffett, a 1 is Homer Simpson. Both of you have 8s, Karl.
Certainly got to give the company credit for the very, very smart licensing deal with Regeneron. Those things are super important, and they did it really well. Co-founder and CEO Sanj Patel, he certainly deserves a good deal of credit for that. Companies can continue to win just from smart licensing and developing deals. There are a lot of products on the market that are sitting on shelves or that are being used in the wrong ways. And he is a scientist, but I kind of appreciate that his background is in pharmacology, which can be a great focus for looking at existing drugs and seeing how they might be used or developed a little bit differently. So I'll give him an 8.
Yeah, Karl and I are on the exact same wavelength here. I like CEOs who are founders. That's the case with Sanj Patel. He co-founded Kiniksa back in 2015. He led the company in picking up Arcalyst from Regeneron in 2017, led the company going public in 2018. Leading a small biotech company is not for the faint of heart. And I think Patel has done a good job. I gave him his team an 8 for getting Kiniksa into a position where they could become a strong player in the biopharmaceutical industry.
For financials, a 10 is a fortress, a 1 is yikes. Keith's got a 7.5. Karl, you've got a 7.
Yeah, their balance sheet is just fine, especially given that they are modestly cash flow positive. But they don't, I don't think, have a ton of optionality when it comes to making big acquisitions, given that they have a cash balance of $268 million. Luckily, that $268 million can go quick in the biotech industry, but I think they're more likely to just be buying products, and probably cheaper ones, that are potentially shelved rather than say a whole company. So I do think they can make that work. I don't see any problems, but that's 7 is about as high as I can go for a company with no profits and modest cash.
If I told you and only told you that Kiniksa's revenue soared more than 70% year over year in its latest quarter, if I told you the company has zero debt, a reasonably solid cash position, some people might think a 10 would be an appropriate financial score. Well, that's not the right score for Kiniksa here. I'm going with a 7.5, a little higher than Karl, but there are some knocks against this company. It hasn't been consistently profitable, does depend on that one product for all of its revenue. And I wouldn't be surprised if Kiniksa's operating expenses increase as it advances some of those pipeline programs. But still, I think the financials look good overall. So that's why I'm giving it that 7.5.
All right, Keith, let's move on to valuation. How well will Kiniksa stock do over the next 5 years? How safe is it? 10's a sure thing. 1's a lottery ticket.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Kiniksa can deliver growth of 15% or more over the next few years. Arcalyst really should have plenty of room to run. It is the only FDA-approved therapy for recurrent pericarditis. And Karl alluded to this earlier. It only has a market penetration of around 13%. So that shows you just how much room this drug has to run. There's no such thing as a sure thing in the biotech world, but I think a safety score of 8 isn't far-fetched for 15% or more growth.
Yeah, and I'll just, the stock, if you look at the chart, you'll see it's near an all-time high, but it's an all-time high that it's hit a few times, at least in that neighborhood. It's going back as far as 2018. It's been in this same sort of range. So you look at its market cap of just a little bit under $2 billion, which is just over 3 times sales. That's certainly not unreasonable. And, they have reported losses, but they're at least modestly cash flow positive. So I think growth is likely to remain strong for a while. I really think it could grow north of 15%. So, going along with Keith on this, particularly if you hear any rumors that maybe they're going to be acquired. But the safety, I was a little lower. Just the one drug, one disease focus adds risk if there's any competitive approach that show up, and I will point out that there's a drug called goflicicep that's in development. There are a class of NLRP3 inflammasome inhibitors that could cut into this market. Those still look like long shots to me, so I think it's a fairly distant risk, but I gave them a 7 for safety.
Time for everyone's favorite topic. Keith, is there a company in Kiniksa Pharmaceuticals space that you like better?
Well, I do like Kiniksa quite a bit. It's one of my favorite small biotech stocks with only one product on the market. That said, investors who like Kiniksa might also want to take a look at Viking Therapeutics. Ticker there is VKTX. It's a little bigger than Kiniksa. Viking's market cap is around $3 billion right now. Viking has 2 especially promising pipeline candidates. The first one is obesity drug VK2735. The other one is MASH or NASH therapy, VK2809. MASH is metabolic associated steatohepatitis, and a liver disease that I think this drug shows a lot of potential for. So I really would take a hard look at Viking if you're interested in Kiniksa.
I found a remarkable number of parallels with Axsome Therapeutics. They're both similar, looking for drugs that already exist that maybe could be used in a different way or maybe reformulated a little bit differently. So, I mean, do I like Axsome better than Kiniksa? Maybe marginally. I will say that Axsome's a much more valuable company right now, even though their sales are similar, but I do expect more growth out of Axsome. They've got 2 launches coming up and they have, a more diverse and better pipeline.
Thanks to both Keith and Karl. They've given Kiniksa an overall score of 7.9 out of 10, just missing the 8.0 that would compel me to buy some shares, but color me intrigued. Look out for a new scoreboard every market day at 7 p.m. Eastern. Next up is Transmedics. Till then, Fool on. I was like, will people get it? I don't care.
I got it.
All right.